I don't know if you guys read this or not, but this comic book, it's messed up.
That's not what you said earlier.
No, I used a different word.
This episode of iFanboy is brought to you by GoDaddy.com and Squarespace.com.
Hey guys, it's Conor. Stick around to the end of the show. We've got interviews with some of the cast and crew behind the film KickAss. But first, let's talk about the comic book.
Hey, welcome to another episode of iFanboy, the comic book discussion show from the website iFanboy.com. I'm Ron Richards.
I'm Conor Kilpatrick.
And I am Josh Flanagan. We are here to talk about KickAss.
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 KickAss is was a miniseries, creator-owned miniseries, written by Mark Millar.
Depends on how you say it.
Written by Mark Millar, drawn by John Romita Jr., published from the Icon imprint at Marvel, which is their creator-owned kind of imprint. And KickAss is fairly unique because Mark Millar, in the past couple of years, in addition to doing some big things at Marvel, you know, like Civil War and Fantastic Four, he's been really cultivating his creator-owned kind of stuff. He, Wanted, he did through Top Cow, which they made into a movie. He made a lot of money on. So he's like, I think I'm onto something.
That was good.
I think I'm onto something here. So in the past couple of years, he launched KickAss with John Romita at Marvel. He launched War Heroes with Tony Harris at Image, which is we're still waiting on.
Man, that second issue.
Yeah.
It was worth the 2-year wait.
But so KickAss recently wrapped up its 8-issue run, and the movie is opening this week.
The turnaround time is fantastic.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't see that kind of turnaround time ever.
They're like, so what happens at the end? Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure the movie was sold based on the first issue alone, similar to Wanted.
Well, that's any kind of pitch, really.
Yeah.
Maybe even before.
Possibly before. Matthew Vaughn directed it. Possibly one of the fastest from comic book to movies we've ever seen. But the good thing is that the comic book, I really enjoyed it. It was really good.
And it just ended, so when the movie comes out, there'll be a trade, hopefully around.
No, yeah, the hardcover's out already.
Yeah, there'll be a trade you can go pick up if you haven't read the series, if you like the film.
Yeah.
This was a series that got a lot of attention because it's really violent.
Yeah.
It's really profane, and it's all basically about kids.
Well, before we start talking about the thing, we should warn everybody that it's about kids. Kids are in it. It's not for kids.
Right.
This is a mature reader's book.
That's a real salient point.
Yeah, exactly.
And I want that, if you've got kids and they see the ad and they go, oh, I can be like... No.
If you've got a sweet little girl who sees the sweet little girl on the screen cutting dudes up with... not even cutting dudes up, but just fighting, and she goes, ooh, I want to see
come
that.
out of her mouth.
No.
Oh, yeah,
No.
But... So to back it up, so Mark Millar as a writer, I find in a lot of his creator-owned work, his personal stuff, he's really fascinated by the line between reality and this weird superhero world that we've created, that we all live in. He did a series for Marvel called 1985, a little mini-series that the premise was the supervillains came into the real world in 1985 and what would happen there. Wanted was very much a kind of superhero still, but with a more realistic kind of approach. Well, KickAss, the question KickAss answers is, what if somebody decided to become a superhero?
Yeah, for real.
For real.
And
no powers,
real world.
in our world. You've got this kid who's a loser, who has dorky friends, reads comic books.
It's very much a play on the Spider-Man idea.
Girls won't talk to him. He only has one parent, his father, and life's rough for him. And he figures, I could be a superhero. And so he creates a costume and goes out.
A good costume.
It's
like
a good design.
But it looks real, but it doesn't look stupid. Not really stupid.
And what was interesting?
Doesn't look stupid.
What was interesting about this book was probably for the first 3 or 4 issues, the title of the series KickAss was probably the most descriptive title ever because he'd go out, try to save somebody, and get brutally beaten.
And end up in the hospital.
And that was literally the plot of the first 4 issues.
Yeah, and we're talking bloody pulp, violence I've never seen, and what was realistic the first time he goes out, he gets his ass kicked and he's in the hospital for months.
So, imagine a 15-year-old skinny kid who doesn't really know how to do anything goes out to some
drug dealers street toughs.
They have street toughs.
They wear bandanas coming out of the back pocket.
And no sleeves, right? Yeah.
Well, if it's the left pocket, right pocket.
Denim vests.
Yeah.
Sometimes dressed up as baseball players.
I wish that he would have attacked DC-style street toughs.
Yeah, exactly.
Denim vests.
And the spikes coming out. Yeah. But yeah, so
dreadnoughts.
So exactly. So he gets his ass kicked, he gets put in the hospital, and then you think that, okay, he learned his lesson, he can't do that, but he can't, that bug is in his head, and he can't get it out, and so he dons the costume.
Well, the reason is because he's filmed, and this is, again, the reality is he gets them on YouTube, and he's a YouTube sensation, everybody talking about the superhero, and so he's...
Which is probably what would happen.
Absolutely
it gets to his ego. Like, if you did, like, a comic book podcast, and people were like, oh, your show's so good.
But,
so like, I'm huge now.
So he keeps putting the costume on, he keeps getting his ass kicked, and then the story does develop into a really interesting story in that he finds he's not the only person doing this. He meets another teenage superhero named the Red Mist, who's got some money behind him, he's got a cool car and stuff like that. And he's like, oh, and so he's like, we can team up. And he's basically living the dream of a comic book.
It's a lot of nerdy, geeky guys living their fantasy of becoming these characters that they read about.
Like World of Warcraft, but with real bats.
And real consequences.
But then the book gets even more serious as we get introduced to the underworld, the crime underworld, the mob for all intents and purposes, but not really if you're watching. Okay.
There's no mob.
Yeah, there's no mob. What are you talking about?
There's no mob.
I work in construction. With these hands.
It's waste management.
Waste management. So
he's not coming back.
It's done.
Yeah, nothing we can do.
So we get introduced to the mob, and then there's yet another superhero team that comes in, which is we get introduced to Big Daddy and Hit Girl, who are a father and daughter team who, very much like the Punisher, decide to take crime, dealing with crime in their own hands. And she's a little girl, filthiest mouth you've ever seen, swords and guns and stuff like that.
Well, KickAss is the title of the book and the character, but I think the star of the book is Hit Girl.
Yeah, well, she steals the show.
She does, and by the end, it's really. I mean, you follow her character for the most part. The final part of the story is basically her arc and with her father.
Yeah.
I mean, KickAss is there, but he's the center of it. But really, all the attention really goes to Hit Girl.
Yeah. And the story, and so KickAss and Big Daddy and Hit Girl and Red Mist, and KickAss starts getting delusions of grandeur, think they can form a Justice League-like team, and they can really think, and the mob comes in and fucks them all up. And I don't want to ruin some of the details of the story because it does take some interesting plot twists and some things I didn't see coming at all. But it was really that realistic take and the violence, but also that I think Mark Millar is a very optimistic writer and very hopeful writer, and like he wants to write. No, I think he does, because really at nature the kid at heart wants to do good. He wants to do good in the world. And
so how do you explain Wanted?
Well,
every
story
written the same.
But and so as you're reading it, you're rooting for the kid, and when he getting his ass kicked or when things are working against him and he realizes he's in over his head, you really hope that he doesn't die.
It's a realistic take on superheroes. Like, what if he did this so he gets beaten up? The only unrealistic thing is that he keeps going back out. Right. Like, I remember that being my only problem with the series was that if his build is a realistic take, when he goes into the hospital, gets plates in his head and things, he wouldn't be going right back out, and then he would be getting killed.
People can be self-destructive, though, especially.
No. What I'm saying is physically, he would go out there and he would be dead for the first time somebody hit him in the head.
But it's a comic book, so.
Right, but it's supposed to be real. But it's not for everyone.
No, it's not. It's like we said, it's mature.
It's fucked up.
That's what it is.
It really is.
We're gonna take a break. We come back. We're gonna talk about the art.
This episode of iFanboy is brought to you by Squarespace. Squarespace is a publishing system for anyone looking to build a blog, portfolio, or any kind of website. They offer a flexible tool for just about anyone with no coding experience required. I have jaflanagan.com, and I do not know a thing about how to build a website, despite having run a website for 10 years. I know, don't ask me about it. But it's the perfect place for me to showcase a little bit of writing here and there, some updates, and more importantly, it's where I post my comic book work and keep people up to date on the kind of stuff that I'm doing there. It's an invaluable tool for me, and Squarespace makes it really easy. If you've been looking for a way to get yourself out on the internet and you don't know how to do it, check out squarespace.com and use the promotional code iFanboy when you're placing your order.
The art on this book is by John Romita Jr. He's done a little bit of creator-owned stuff in the past, but mostly he's known as a Marvel guy.
He's a new guy in the scene, right?
No. John Romita Jr. is probably one of the and his father, John Romita Sr., worked at Marvel in the Silver Age and
legacy to the likes of which no one else can even begin to claim.
$5 says that your mental image of Spider-Man is John Romita Sr.'s drawing of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So John Romita Jr. grew up watching him draw that and became an artist himself. And John Romita Jr. is probably one of the artists that I've been reading consistently the longest. I remember reading him in the 80s, and he's worked all through the 90s. He's worked on every Marvel character. He did a run on Uncanny X-Men. He did a run on Punisher. He's done epic runs on Spider-Man. Thor. Yeah.
The one thing this book personifies about John Romita Jr.'s art is he's gotten better as he's gotten older. Usually artists they get better, they peak, and then as they get older, you can see their skills diminish.
I think it got better over the course of this series.
Right, I think this is some of the best work he's ever done. He's been doing this for 20 years.
And so the really interesting thing for me about this is that John Romita Jr. is, to me, the closest link and straight line to Marvel of the past.
Yeah.
If you look at, there's a real straight line between Kirby and his father and Walt Simonson, and like you can see the similarities to those art, but also doing it in a modern style. And so then you take that and you flip it and you put it in this
with
story,
this very 21st century,
which is not about Marvel
brutally
at all.
realistic.
And he really he did the work of his career on this so far.
And the whole team that worked on this book. I mean, I think Tom Palmer and Chris Eliopoulos did the letters, and Dean White did the colors. I forget exactly who the whole thing was, but the whole team on it. The book looks beautiful.
It's great. It's production-wise and art. It's amazing because you're looking at this horrible stuff that's drawn so beautifully. It's fantastic.
I mean, and what's great is when the issues were coming out, it was this creator-owned book, so there's no ads. And in the back, they actually printed several pages of his black and white, some of his sketches, and some of the black and white pages, the uninked or uncolored pages, and just the detail and just the page composition. I mean, this is probably one of John Romita Jr.'s best works that he's going to hold up.
He's dealing with comedic beats and violent beats and drama beats and all those things.
Action.
He's juggling all of those things. And, comedy, drawing it, especially in the wake of, children getting the crap beat out of them and their heads cut off and electric to the jables. It's no small thing. And it really, he's got a lot of experience, and I think that all really... Because the thing is, I really do think that if this story had been done by an artist who couldn't handle it, there wouldn't be a movie right now. People wouldn't be talking about it right now.
Right.
If it was just sort of a B-level artist.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because again, it goes back to the title. The title's KickAss, and it comes across in the story, but it also comes across in the art. When he's getting his ass kicked, you feel it.
Yeah.
And with the blood and the wounds and the weapons,
the bruising and the swelling.
Oh yeah.
It's funny when I picture the book in my head, I see just panels filled with action and detail. It's just these packed panels filled of energy and lines, and I just see these pages full of. There's no wasted panels in this book.
Yeah.
He doesn't skimp. There's no we gotta get this book out. These pages are full. Each panel is full of art. It's really fantastic.
It's really beautiful, and it's. I would never have thought of Romita and Millar together. They worked together on Wolverine, on a run of Wolverine. That's kind of how they
also very violent, actually.
That was very it's Millar, and so I guess they clicked when they worked on Wolverine and did this project. And Mark Millar, like we said, he writes very extreme things and things like this. But it really is a perfect series. I mean, if you're okay with the violence, if you can look past it,
you've got to be into the story. I mean, into the whole thing. It's not for everyone. It's
not The Watchmen.
It's a book about. It's a really violent book featuring a lot of profane things. If it's not your thing, you won't like it. But if you do like it, I enjoyed it a lot. I mean, it wasn't. We had a lot of fun on our audio show talking about how fucked up it was and crazy, and it was fucked up and crazy, and that was part of the draw of it. I think that's you have to let that into your life every now and then. Not everything is going to be serious. Not everything's going to be penetrating the human soul, but sometimes you just want fucked up and violent.
Penetrated some humans.
And what I thought was amazing about it is that every 2 issues or so, because it's an 8-issue miniseries, but every 2 issues, something happened, either the introduction of the Hit Girl and watching her fight and in the language, or some of the revelations that happened towards the end when Big Daddy, when we finally find out the
his
origin.
Yeah.
And it's just wow. And then the turns at the end and stuff like that. It just it kept me on my toes, and I really like that when a book does it. I can't predict what's going to happen.
You know what?
Miller's really good at that.
My reaction was really telling when I'd get the book and I would say I'd get ready to read it. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to have a good time reading this. Yeah. It's going to be a fun ride. That would be my reaction every time the issue came out. So
now the question is, will the fun translate to the movies?
Thank you to GoDaddy for sponsoring this episode of iFanboy. Web hosting from GoDaddy.com includes 99.9% uptime, 24/7 support, and free access to Hosting Connection, the place to install over 30 free applications sure to help you get the most from your hosting plan and website. Use the code FAN14 to get any .net, .biz, or .org domain name for only $7.49.
At WonderCon, we had a chance to talk to some of the cast and crew behind KickAss the movie. Here's what they had to say.
When you got presented the script of KickAss and the character, what was it that attracted you that said, I want to be this character?
Just the fact that he's not the typical superhero, just completely opposite, and you know, he's quirky. It's, you know, he's an ordinary kid just trying to mess around, have a mad imagination, and look for a journey and escape route, and you know, he's a quirky kid. He's a sensitive guy who's got a lot of heart, doesn't really give up, is pretty persistent, don't give a fuck if he's getting beaten the shit out of. So,
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, a lot of a major portion of the movie is you getting your ass kicked, basically.
Yeah.
Did that get tiring after a while, or?
no, it was okay. It was
Yeah. So you also spent a lot of time in that costume, that kind of skin tight costume. Is kind of a mindset change when you're in costume and in the full getup?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm nothing like Dave Lazowski, so the moment I'm got glasses on and jeans on, I'm that character, and then when I'm in KickAss, I'm definitely KickAss, you know. Yeah. So that for me is part of I guess the acting thing.
Yeah. All right, fair enough. so
I mean, it's not that tight. I mean, it is just a wetsuit. I mean, most people go surfing in wetsuits.
So it wasn't
back, not in America, I suppose, but back, you know, in England they do 'cause it's so cold. But
yeah, we go surfing wetsuits here. It's cold up here, so in San Francisco. But so now
it's like pussies wear wetsuits, man.
So now that you're in a superhero movie, you kind of these big conventions and things like that. You have the opportunity. The fans are unlike any other fans out there. Have you had an opportunity to engage with comic fans at all?
A couple. You know, it's brilliant. I mean, it's so great to be a part of something where people are so enthusiastic about it, and you know, it'd be different if I was in a big piece of shit. Do you know what I mean? If people just came up and was just like, "Oh man, you're in that fucking movie like a fucking dickhead, you know, fucking cunt." No, like, oh, great, thanks.
Well, it's good to be in a good one then, right?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm happy. You know, I've never been to Comic-Con, so to be invited like this and with something that I'm a part of and people like is brilliant. And people, I just hope you just all go see it. I mean, like, even if it just you kind of a bit like, I don't know, just go see it, just because it's one of those movies that you should see while it's at in cinemas, because it will blow your mind and it's entertaining and it's like Superbad versus Kill Bill, you know. It's like Spider-Man on some high dosage speed or like coke or something.
So when you were presented with the Kick-Ass comic book to adapt the screenplay, what was your first reaction to the violence and
Well, the weirdest thing was I wasn't actually presented with the comic book because it actually came out with Mark just telling me the idea. So it was but you know, I was so struck by what a brilliant idea it was and how it just felt so fresh. It was one of those ideas where you go, has no one ever done that? That's insane. It really feels like one of those things that should exist already. So I was just massively excited.
Yeah, very cool. So you changed some of the key kind of plot developments and character introductions in the movie versus the comic. What were some of the decisions around the altering from Mark's original script?
Well, you know, the weird thing is because Mark was actually writing the comic at the same time as we were writing the screenplay, so it was more a matter of Mark being amazingly laid back and saying, look, do what you want to do as long as you don't kill anyone I need by the end. You know, have fun with it. And then there were elements that he said, oh, actually, you know what, that really works in the screenplay, I'm going to go with that in the comic. And there were other times when he had ideas in his mind about where he wanted to go. So it wasn't like with a traditional adaptation where you have to make those tough decisions and go, we're not going to do that, because often pretty much we'd hit that point before Mark had hit it, and it was more a matter of, is Mark going to go with what we've done or is he going to go his own way? But it's luckily, you know, myself and Mark and Matthew Vaughn, the director, and John Romita Jr. all get on great, and it was, you know, it's a really relaxed, creative relationship.
Excellent. So was the climax of the movie, the big fight at the end, the jetpack, was that your idea?
Yeah, that was me and Matthew. It was, you know, I mean, it was one of those things. Hey, we don't want to do spoilers here.
Yeah, it's okay. We're pro spoilers.
Okay, cool. But yeah, no, it was one of those things where, you know, Matthew and I talked about it long and hard, and we're like, you know, because we wanted to keep it grounded in our world, but we were looking at, you know, videos online of actual jetpacks. You know what? These pretty much exist. They're expensive, but you know, we're pretty much still in the real world here. Let's do it.
Excellent. So, and I assume you're happy with the movie. Would you be open to writing the second one or the sequel?
Well, you know what, Matthew and I really don't want to jump the gun on the sequel. Obviously, you know, Mark is writing his sequel, and I can't wait to read it. And but you know, we want to let's see how this does. But you know, we're excited about this. We all loved working together. I'd jump at the chance.
So your character Hit Girl is not the normal child role. When they presented the role to you to play, like, what was it that attracted you about it?
It's so unique, you know. It's something you really never see every day. So that's definitely something that I was really excited to do.
Yeah. Did you read the comic?
I have seen a couple parts of the comic, but I'm not able to read the whole thing.
All right, yeah, because it's quite, and as you know, the movie's quite violent and this sort of thing, and you are a lot of the violence, and you kind of steal the show with it. Did you have fun doing all the stunts and kind of, playing with guns and stuff?
It was a lot of fun. I did all my stunts, except for like running up the wall and stuff like that. But yeah, it was a lot of fun, but it was super duper hard.
Yeah. So when when you put the costume on, did you kind of feel like you are Hit Girl? Like, did you kind of slip into the role?
Definitely. The minute I put the wig on, the jacket and the pants on, the boots, I become Hit Girl. I step away from Chloe and I become Hit Girl.
So are your friends a little more scared of you now? Do people owe you money? They pay right up?
No. They just think of me as Chloe because I've known them since I was like a kindergartner, and so they just think of me as Chloe, not actor Chloe or anything.
So what was it about the KickAss as a project that attracted you to it?
When I read the script, it was very violent and bloody and funny, and those are all things that I would want to see in a movie. Sure. So I just I kind of wanted to be a part of it, and went in and auditioned. Actually read for KickAss instead, and Matthew Vaughn hated it right there in the audition. He's like, no, it doesn't work, but you'd be really good for Red Mist, so he gave it to me right there.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, no, I remember because we talked to a lot of comic creators, and I talked to Mark Millar about 2 years ago, nice. And he was super psyched that you were even trying out.
Oh, nice! Yeah, wow, thank you, Mark. Wherever he is, do you know if he's here?
No, I don't think he made it, unfortunately.
Bummer.
But yeah, no, he was so excited that you were going to be in it, and the Red Mist role in particular is the one that got a different treatment in the movie than the comic.
Yeah.
How did you feel about the development of the character and the story?
I loved it. I like the fact that my son is a very, very bad man, and he never really had the son he wanted. Yep. And I couldn't fulfill that, and I want to be in my dad's business, but he never really accepts me. Right. And so I kind of create Red Mist to lure KickAss to my father, and he accepts me that way, and he realizes that way. So I kind of start turning bad once I start working with my father. It's great.
Yeah, very cool. So and the movie ends kind of with you teed up for the next one?
Yeah, we're hoping, we're hoping this one does well. Yeah. Knock on wood, if there's, air wood, whatever. But yeah, we really want this one just to do well, and then hopefully we'll talk sequel after.
Cool, excellent. And I assume you've read the comic?
Yes.
Yes. So did you like comics in general? Or?
My dad is a massive comic book fan. When I was younger, he's been collecting since the 60s and 70s, so he's got thousands everywhere. Yeah. So when I was younger, I read a lot, but I kind of got out of it now.
Yeah.
I'm working too much. I don't have time to read them.
Fair enough. So when you put on that costume, is that kind of like, was it a mind changer?
At first. The first time I wore it, I felt very badass, and I was just like taking pictures of my camera phone and sending them to my friends and everything. I'm like, yeah. Well, then about like 2 weeks into it, I started getting so annoyed because you're sweating in it for 12 hours a day, and the cape is like cutting off circulation in my arms. It's very uncomfortable. Yeah. But it looks great on screen, so that's all that matters.
It really does. Did you ever think that you'd get to be in a superhero movie and like get a cape and stuff?
No, I never. You don't look at me and go like, that guy, he's got to be in an action movie. Yeah. You don't say that, Exactly. So I'm honored that they let me do this.
So did you get a chance to read the comic before you started doing the movie? Or?
Yeah. I read I've been reading everything Mark Millar does since like The Authority.
Oh, really?
So I was a big fan of the book before I knew anything about the movie.
Yeah, excellent. So getting the opportunity to be one of the more realistic characters versus all these costumes and things like that, what was that like?
Well, it's a little anticlimactic, like when we do these interviews.
Yeah.
Because I don't have.
A little jealous you don't have a costume to talk about.
Yeah, maybe there's a sequel.
Yeah. So was it a lot of fun to kind of just be in that environment and
Totally. Yeah. I mean, it was just really awesome to be involved not only in like a superhero movie, of which I'm a big fan, but a good one. Right. Because the movie's legitimately really good. Yeah. And thank goodness audiences and critics have all seemed to think so too. So. Yeah.
So if you've been a fan of Millar since The Authority, you're a regular comic reader? Or?
I am, yeah.
So what have you been reading that's been good these days?
Morrison's Batman's cool right now, but I don't know. I felt like those first 3 issues were really perfect, like all-star Superman status, and then it's kind of slowed down a little bit. God, I'm not reading now. I'm trying to switch over just to trades all the time because I physically run out of space for one thing.
A lot of people are.
And I just don't. I'm not able to go every Wednesday anymore. Right. So I'm not keeping up with anything that current. I read Daredevil for years, until Brubaker just stopped, and
Yeah. It's actually pretty good. Diggle's run is not that bad.
So yeah, Diggle's good. Yeah. Diggle's good. Who does the art?
I forget the guy's name. It's I forget his name. It's a Spanish guy. Yeah, but it's good.
Is it still good? I like the Iron Fist a lot too. I like Matt Fraction's Iron Man right now.
Yeah.
I quit reading Ultimate Spider-Man when they rebooted everything, so I don't know. I don't really have a lot of monthly shit anymore.
So you read mainly Marvel stuff? Well, you read Batman. What is it?
No, I read everything. Yeah. I'm more about the creators than I am, whatever.
Who are some of your favorite creators?
Miller, Grant Morrison, Brubaker, Bendis, Jeff Johns. Probably the same guys everybody else loves.
Right, yeah, exactly. So last time we spoke, you hadn't seen the movie yet. Right? I assume you've seen it. What do you think?
I've seen it 3 times. First time I saw it, I was just a fan of the film. I wanted to see what it looked like.
Yeah.
Second 2 times, I could be a little more discriminating.
Yeah.
I really loved it. I even got choked up in the scene when Nicolas Cage is dying,
Yeah.
and he's yelling out instructions to his daughter.
Yeah.
I thought that was so beautifully handled.
Yeah.
The tough part is to show that kind of love in an action sequence. How can you do that?
Right.
They pulled it off beautifully.
Yeah.
And while I would have loved to have seen a little bit closer to the moment when she turns to, in the comic, when she turns to KickAss and says, we need a hug, it worked so perfectly in the film.
Yeah.
I'm such a fanboy of the film now. I'm a geek just like anybody else. I'm excited. There's all get out.
So speaking of geeky stuff, I saw the movie and there are some shots that are direct from the book, from your panels. What was that like to see your artwork kind of come to life?
Well, I had a couple of my uncles visit Matthew.
Yeah.
And, you better do what the kid says. And it's amazing how it works out. They do whatever you do. That's the biggest compliment, to have Matthew draw from the comic like that.
Yeah.
And when I heard that he was going to do that, I said, sure. Yeah. This is Hollywood. Oh, no, actually, it's not Hollywood, but this is the movie business. Right, I'm sure. And to find out that he was true to his word, and he's honest, and he did it, I was more impressed with him than anything, and so flattered.
Yeah.
Because every artist, probably in comics, thinks that they can be a director without the technical aspect of it.
Sure.
Because you're telling a story in sequential order.
Yeah.
To have it actually happen and used in that way is the truest compliment of all.
So you're going to want to go to iFanboy.com when the movie comes out to check out our audio review of it on our audio podcast, as well as you can comment on this episode and say what you thought
and
of
as
the
well
movie.
as the movie. If you've seen KickAss, you want to talk about people who've also seen KickAss, go to iFanboy.com.
Exactly.
If you want to write into us, it's contact@ifanboy.com. Send us your email with your thoughts on it. Or you can call us at the voicemail, just 888-326-2697.
Yep. Or you can go to revision3.com/ifanboy, check out all the previous episodes. We mentioned ifanboy.com. And follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/ifanboy. So I'm psyched for the movie.
I can tell.
Yeah, I really am. It's got Nicolas Cage.
He looks good in it.
Yeah.
He does. He's perfect for that. He's over the top, and he's supposed to be over the top.
Yeah, it is a good fit for me. I don't like Nicolas Cage.
He got his haircut from that bad movie, Bangkok, whatever.
Bangkok Dangerous.
Bangkok awful.
Bangkok Tasty is my local Thai food place.
Now I'm hungry.
My name is Ron Richards. I'm stepping all over my lines. And
I'm Josh Flanagan.
And
I
also Josh Flanagan.
I wasn't going to talk here. I don't have anything prepared.
You're like the guy at the credits where they go, and Josh Flanagan.
Yeah. Oh, I'm like the end.
Yeah.
I'm Willie Ames. 3, 2.
hey, welcome to
3, 2.